here's the thing about what's happened in the last 2.5 years. For a long time, we've known there's been these sectors of our society who had our trust for a long time. The first sector that lost our trust were like preachers, televangelists. Right. Because when the internet came out, and even before that, when you had like Inside Edition, you know, people following people around, they started figuring out, oh, this is a human man. He's not this anointed prophet who walks on water, who's perfect and never looks at women and never makes mistakes. So their credibility, for the most part, if you're a man of God and you're preaching from the stage and you're revered by those who are watching you are not educated as to the fact that you're a human being. There was then the group politicians. Yeah. Reagan. Oh my God. And Reagan, as me and Rich Warfield have discussed 2 times now, is the one who pretty much put into effect that military-industrial complex that now we can't pull our own ass out of.
But I will interject a little bit, not about the military-industrial complex. I would argue that the trust factor with politicians, some would say, oh, it ended with Clinton, with the Monica Lewinsky, and then some would say, no, it ended with Bush, with the with the war in Iraq,
weapons of mass destruction,
and then then it was Obama just because it's Obama.
Right.
I would argue it's more likely Trump, I think, brought a lot of it, just because at least with all those other presidents, no matter how you feel about them or whatever you feel, you always had this notion that at least they were being presidential, at least they were doing what they thought was right for the country, or you could at least lie to yourself. I think a lot of them have been criminals and crooks for a long time. But in my opinion, like even with Bush, it's like, okay, let's have this illegal war in Iraq, or I don't know. I'm not versed enough on it to have a real opinion.
There were no weapons of mass destruction.
There wasn't.
That's what we were sold.
But
Colin Powell lied to the American people at the behest of Rumsfeld and Bush.
But you could at least lie to yourself and say, well, at least I think he was doing what he thought was best for the country. Obama, same thing. But with Trump, it's because, in my opinion, because he didn't have that presidential pedigree, and it's just like, it's like
well, he's a very petty guy.
Well, if an elementary school attacked him, you don't swat at the fly. You just let it be its thing. Right. And he had to fight back on everything, and I think that's what...
Well, he's a fighter, and he is a disruptor, and he's not a politician.
Right. But I think he really screwed up our political structure.
I think there's a lot of people who really like his approach. Well, I'm not necessarily a fanboy of Donald Trump.
But here's the
Donald
problem.
Trump lost the election because of the first debate. He wouldn't listen to his team. Mm-hmm. He engaged in attack and walked all over Biden. And the man has certain things that make him pretty good at some things, and he has some other things where his ego just overwhelms him. The problem to me with what you just said is you just described families that are almost like these royal families, and I use the word pedigree, and that's not what this country was founded on. This country was founded on farmers, people for religious reasons, people for economic reasons. We just passed Independence Day. I don't even like calling it July 4th. It's motherfucking Independence Day.
Oh, and actually it was July 2nd.
And they came over here.
That's when they actually signed it.
And they said, no more, and bring it the fuck on. And they took a huge risk, and they were massively exposed because they said no to their motherland. We will not pay your taxes. Bring it. And they beat them. And they had no protection, and they had no affiliations, and it's a damn good thing they had an ocean on either side of them because they would have been overrun, and damn good thing that there wasn't much north or much south when they settled the United States of America because very exposed, very undermanned. But the myth is
that... But there's also a lot of luck there because the only reason that the Britons didn't just destroy the 13 colonies is because they also had all their shit in India they were going through. They had all the shit they were going on with Europe.
Yes.
So they were trying to do like the Russians in World War II, or not the Russians, the Germans in World War II, having a multi-pronged, having too many fronts. So the Britons or UK had too many fronts, and it's not that we necessarily won. It's we survived past their point of putting up with us.
They overextended their bandwidth.
But that was Washington's strategy. His strategy was never to have this massive win. His strategy was, we don't have to win. We just have to survive.
Well, yeah. What's that famous quote? The sun rises and sets. It used to say on the Roman Empire. Then the sun rises and sets on the British Empire because the Brits were everywhere.
From the Indies to the Americas.
Yes, and they overextended themselves. They overshot their own bandwidth, and they thought they could just come over here and say "shoo fly." And the problem is that when you have...
Well, all those taxes were to try to pay for their wars in Europe and India.
Well, yes, and many conscripted soldiers sent into battle. And if you don't believe, if you're not defending your lives, your fortune, and your sacred motherfucking honor, and you're just being paid, or you were in prison and this was your ticket out, you don't think that if you're going up against someone who's defending their lives, their fortune, and their sacred honor, that he's going to kill 10 of you? Because you ain't.
For years, and this is a horrible idea, but I love it, especially in the heyday of Iraq, when it's like, oh, we've been here for so much, or Afghanistan, we've been here so long, what do? I was like, well, we have a huge prison system. Why don't we get some of these lifers and offer an opportunity to jump out of a plane into Somalia, into Kuwait, into a war zone like Afghanistan or Iraq. And it's like, hey, there you go. Have at it. Survive or don't survive. I don't care. But, and I know that's horrible and it's evil, but it's like, because they're going to, if you throw a serial killer into a nest, they're just going to kill a lot of innocent people.
That's the wildest thing I've heard you say.
I know, but I'm telling you, it's a horrible idea, but it's an idea that I used to have.
Yeah, no.
And it's evil because there's a lot of innocence in war zones.
And innocence in prison.
Well, no doubt about that. In fact, there's a person, I believe, they're second in command of this great country, who's put more innocents in jail than any other single human on the face of the planet.
I don't know about that. I know what you're referring to.
That's not a. Is that not a factual claim?
I don't know. But is she the one that arrested everybody, or is she
prosecuted?
She's prosecuted. She's Attorney General. Yes, but you could say the same thing about Giuliani.
Yeah. I think
again, all these people, not all these people, that's definitive, but so many of the politician class, they use their power at that time to get more power. So for her to lock all those people up, it was most likely to pass along her journey to become the VP of the United States. Well, everybody loves her as that.
I don't think you become a great politician by, if you're a person of faith. In the scriptures, it calls the Holy Spirit a still small voice. A lot of other people, secular people, maybe they're not religious, call that your conscience. Mm-hmm. I think that a lot of politicians, their conscience has been seared, and they're so focused on advancing their own brand that they will blow right through what they know to be wrong ethically because they can get away with it. And I've not trusted politicians for a very long time. I'm a libertarian or an independent.
You know how I know you'll never be a politician? What's your favorite color?
Gray or black, probably.
Now ask me.
What's your favorite color?
That's a great question, Jess. And I'll get back to that, but I want to counter that question. Yeah. Before I answer your question, I want to state that and then they never answer the question.
See, but me.
What's your favorite color, Solil?
I'm not 5 years old, so.
Oh, wow. Zing. I think the thing back to Trump, whether you love the guy or hate the guy, and that's the effect that he had. He's completely polarized.
Yes.
Our tribalism is massive. And, whoever you want to, that's what Independence Day is all the fuck about, in my opinion. Freedom.
The biggest, the thing that's funny to me is the what I hate most about 2020 was not so much the pandemic subject, whatever, or whatever you want to call it. But for me, it was how much the media and general people lost their fucking minds that I was actually defending Trump. So from 2016, 2019, I was like, yeah, I don't really like this guy. I think he's a joke. I don't like him. But then seeing how much the media would spin every little thing, you're like, this is ridiculous. Y'all are stupid. So I really don't like that about 2020.
Well, so we've said that
because I would much rather have Trump than Biden.
Religious leaders lost their credibility, and I'm not just talking about televangelists. I'm talking about like what's that yoga guy? What's that hot yoga? Bikram yoga.
Bikram.
Yeah.
That guy was drilling everything that walked. So, it doesn't really matter what your religious leanings are, what your political leanings are. This applies to everyone. And I don't take sides there. In my opinion, all politicians and everyone who works in government should have a very limited time they work in government.
Yeah.
And what most people don't understand, and they'll say, well, everyone loves to hang everything around the neck of the executive branch. The legislative branch needs term limits and needs them badly.
Well,
and then you've got all your operational folks. So you got folks working in the CIA, the FBI, the Pentagon, all of these the alphabet gang that are in there. They're lifers too, and they have way more influence than people realize.
Well, so let's take recent news: Supreme Court, Roe v. Wade, overturning, etc. People are losing their fucking mind about that, and they're screaming their heads off at the Supreme Court. How could you? How could you? How could you? But yet the last 20, 30 years of Republicans have been screaming that, hey, we're going to stack the court for this very moment. So everyone has known that playbook for 20, 30, and I'm not going to comment on actual abortion.
It's pointless.
It's pointless. Either for or against, it doesn't matter. What I'm saying is everyone knew what the playbook was. And yet, even right now, you've got Biden as president. You've got a stacked Democratic Party in the government. And yet they have, instead of actually acting and putting in legislation for whatever their belief structure is, they would rather just condemn what the Supreme Court did and then send out a campaign notice. Hey, give us more money so we can fight this. Fight it. You've been in office this whole time. Right. You can fight it right. You literally can go to work right now.
Yep.
And I don't know what the solution is. I have a very loose opinion on all of that. Like, I'm a male. I'm not married. I really don't have an opinion.
Ladies, DM me and I'll hook you up.
Jess, you were
I'm pro-choice.
You were just talking about term limits, and we're talking about the Supreme Court. And the reason the founders had lifetime appointments, right, was to theoretically keep political persuasions out of the judiciary.
Yes,
right?
I was not talking about term limits for the Supreme Court.
Right.
Well, so with what Ryan was just saying about Republicans, Democrats not being able to do anything, and Republicans
because the courts were had been stacked.
No, so Ruth Bader Ginsburg, right, had the opportunity when
during Obama,
to step down. She was old and dying,
right?
Okay, and she did not, leading to this. If you are a Democrat, this debacle,
right,
of a stack, because Trump goes in and appoints two,
and everybody at that time was screaming that she should step down.
Right. So why didn't she?
Because she's the hero of the liberal party.
Right.
Yeah,
so a lot of ego wrapped up there.
Yeah, ego, and they don't want to. The Democrats are the Republicans. They just like gay people.
There is no fucking reason why there should only be two major parties in this country. And the problem is that what ends up happening is we get faced with the lesser of two evils. And it's really, really shitty. Think about if you finally are going to settle down.
Right.
And you have two choices. And you've already said you don't like older gals. And they're your only choices, and one's older and one's younger but real ugly. And you have to choose the lesser of two evils. When we vote for president, do we really feel like those two elderly gentlemen are the most qualified gentlemen to make the decisions and have their thumb on the nuke buttons? Or is it just that's the way the game was played and these are our final options? No right-minded board of directors would hire either of those gentlemen as the CEO.
I was just at, the
chairman of the board.
PwC building in downtown.
Yeah.
I was just at that building yesterday for a meeting. And one of the things that the gentleman we were having a meeting with was talking about how the average age in their and PwC is a massive company nationwide, or actually I think it's global. The average age is like 28. So they're not hiring 40, 50, 60 year olds.
Right.
They're hiring that 20 to, or probably 22 out of college, 22 to 32-year-old era.
Absolutely.
One thing I wanted to bring up, and so I did I texted you something to look up, is the life expectancy of when it was 1776 versus 2022. You could very easily assume that, hey, your life expectancy in 1776 was probably, 40, 50 years old?
Maybe.
Maybe. And what was it? 35?
Hot damn. Yeah. Crazy.
So like your life expectancy in during the founding fathers era, they didn't have to
30 years more now. 32 years
they
more.
They didn't have to put a term limit.
True.
Because they're like, you're going to be dead.
True. And there's
tomorrow.
we can't see into the future. If we could see into the future, then we would have known COVID was coming. And back to my point. Just like every comedian, you tie everything together. So preachers and religious, these religious figureheads lost their credibility. Politicians lost their credibility. Mainstream media. Let's move to that. Mainstream media loved Trump because
money.
Now CNN Plus, I don't even know.
1 week.
Solio, can you look up what did CNN Plus?
I think they spent $200 million and it was up for 7 days.
And they had 10,000 subscribers.
And then they canceled it. They just
and they had to bail on it. And they have got to just be pulling their hair out. What do we have to do to get Trump back? Because the hatred for that guy is so polarizing, and it has done a really interesting thing to our country. A lot of people who wanted to be Sweden, they wanted to hang out in the middle on the fence. I've had people on the podcast who I've always voted Republican, but I fucking hate Trump. A couple of them are really good friends of mine. I hate Trump, and so I'm going to vote the other way just because I hate Trump, because he's got a fake tan and because he does mean tweets and because I guess he fucked porn stars.
So like, I don't like to admit this. I don't like to put it out there, so I apologize, Mom, Dad.
Uh-oh.
I actually voted for Hillary in 2016.
Oh, no.
And it was the most, dirty I've ever felt in my life. It makes me cringe. I'm literally feeling, because I just don't like her. But I had such vitriol against a non-polished, like, he's going to be the leader. He's our whatever, our figurehead. Yeah. I just couldn't see it. Still don't see it. Didn't want it. And it was funny because people were like, well, but she's a criminal. She's a crook. I'm like, motherfucker, they're all criminals. They're all crooks. You don't think
it's a sad commentary on the state of our politics.
I know, right? You don't think Obama has a list of people that their organization has killed? Bush, because like the Clinton Foundation list.
Right.
This is very Rich
the
Warfield
Bushes are as
conversation.
corrupt as the day is long.
There's theories that the Bush is responsible for JFK.
If you don't think that's true, do a little of your own fucking research. Educate yourself like a grown adult instead of taking the spoon-fed bullshit that you get when you turn on cable television. Because there's all kinds of places to learn that shit.
I will tell you, and you, the audience, what I tell my mom: turn Fox News off. The only news that anybody should be watching, if they're watching at all, is the Crystal and Sagar.
Yes. Breaking Points is right down the middle. They are not beholden to anyone financially. Do you know? So why is there TV? Why do we have TV? TV stations, TV networks, shows. What's the goal? What's the goal? It's a business. Right? And the goal of a business is to
make money.
So we got to get as many people watching Grey's Anatomy as possible so that then we know what the demographic is and we can throw some Buick commercials in there.
Yeah.
We can throw some pharmaceutical commercials in there, and we can throw some toilet paper commercials in there. Or the NFL, right? The NFL is the biggest reality show on the planet. Mm-hmm. Everyone's breaking their dick off to get the rights to the NFL. And we got beer and trucks and the whole 9 yards, and it is a money-making proposition. If you think that when you turn on cable television news, you're getting the news, you're smoking the best meth ever.
So on that, and I thought this is where you're going, but maybe you don't know this, and maybe I'm making this up as I say it.
Biggest advertisers
in
terms of money?
No. Oh. Who owns the rights to the airwaves?
I don't know,
The
actually.
American government, the U.S. government. So the reason ABC, NBC, CBS, they would have their 1 hour news program was the social contract, or it may have been an actual contract.
An FCC law.
Well, not a law, but like the contract they had to give them rights to the airwaves for 1 hour a night or 1 hour a day or whatever. They needed to produce relevant content for the American people. That was the news. And that was how it was for years and years and years until you had cable with CNN. CNN comes out with entertainment news, and it kind of broke the whole system.
Absolutely. What's the
24/7 hour
what's the
news
what's
cycle.
the big fat motherfucker who Rupert Murdoch put in charge of Fox News? Roger
Woodall? No, that's NFL.
Solio. What was that movie? What was that show with Russell Crowe where Russell Crowe puts the fat suit on? He's doing all this weird shit with women. What's his name?
Roger Ailes?
Right, wasn't that his name? Roger Ailes? Think so. Anyways, great show, by the way.
You're not
Unreal.
talking about Rupert?
Well, Rupert Murdoch put him in charge of
Roger
Fox
Ailes.
News. Yeah, Roger Ailes. Big time pervert, his entire goal was to polarize. He went and got Sean Hannity. He brought Sean Hannity up. He made Sean Hannity a star because Sean Hannity is going absolutely counter to everything else they're doing on this other channel.
You're missing a step. Originally, it was Hannity and Combs.
Right.
Because Hannity was the right, Combs was the left, and they loved that. It was kind of like a breaking points. But then they were like, well, we don't really need the alter. Let's just go lean right and get rid of this guy.
Well, and Combs,
And
if
then he
you
died,
noticed, they kind of put more of a kind of a bigger fella in there in the chair on the right, and kind of a more meek, mild, leaner fella in there on the left. And so it was this, they still have folks on there. Juan Williams goes on there. I haven't watched Fox News in a year and a half, 2 years. I've got all the news off.
Horrible.
So we lost all faith in religious leaders. We lost all faith in politics. Now, maybe a lot of people haven't. I'm saying this is what happened to me. I grew up very religious household. Very, very, very religious household. Next level. It'll be in the book. So this is how I lost faith. So, like I said, you're losing faith. The media, then we get politicians, religious leaders, and now I've lost all faith in the medical community. All of it. Gone because of what's happened over the last two and a half years. And it may be an oversimplification, but again, I think it's an axiom that's very hard to disprove. Follow the money. Mm-hmm. And whether you believed in the sickness that was, widely publicized and there was so much fear about, or you don't, just the way we operate in terms of our medical system now, it's let me down personally.
So
big time. And I'm not even talking about the sickness. I'm talking about I have a bad knee. So I go to an expert, and move one is let's cut that fucking thing again. Let's put you're going to be laid up 6 weeks. Let's cut it. I can fix it. And then we'll rehab you. Move two is, let's shoot something in there, right? These are all easy button solutions.